Told my stepmom she will never be my real mom and went no contact. Now my dad and her are stalking me and trying to force themselves into my life. My mom passed away when I was 14. I was always closer to her than my dad, so I took it very hard and still missed her every day, but my dad moved on extremely quickly. I'm talking about 1.5 months later, and he was openly dating his current wife, whom I suspect he was cheating with on my mom when she was still alive. She moved in 4 months after my mom's passing. Then, 9 months after her passing, they announced their engagement on my birthday as one of my gifts. I obviously didn't take it well. I made a scene, dumped the cake they got me, and walked out. I disappeared for a few days until they were about to put out a missing person report, and I was forced to go back home. They tried to get rid of all evidence of my mom ever living there, as in, they tried to remove all pictures, personal effects, memories, and other belongings from my mom. I kept what I could and hid some others. They wouldn't let me celebrate her birthday or anything related to my mom. They tried to force me to call my stepmom mom, but I never did, and they would ignore me when I called her by her name. She would introduce herself as my mom, and I would correct her every time. It got to the point that I stopped talking to her unless absolutely necessary, or if I was correcting her, and these talks were usually one-word answers. My dad got angry every time I didn't call her mom, use her first name, or introduce her as my dad's wife. I once spent 2 weeks not talking to either of them when I was 16 because I was ruining their family dynamic. Their exact words were, "Until I can be a part of the family, there is nothing to say or do as one," but they caved at about the 15th day of no communication and interaction. I turned 18 and left for uni and went extremely low contact and didn't go back. When I was 21, I got engaged to my fiancée. She knows about my relationship with my dad and his wife. She respects it and is on my side. When they found out, my dad and his wife had a fit because they didn't know I was seeing anyone. My dad's wife posted on social media, saying she was excited that her son, aka me, was getting married with a bunch of other things, mentioning she can't wait until she becomes a grandma. I made a short post saying I am not and will never be her son, and she won't be a grandma to any future kids. My dad got mad, saying I was disrespecting my mother and embarrassing her. I asked who we were talking about because my only mother was my bio mom, and at this point, I lost both of my parents on that day when I was 14. That was 3 years ago, and we went back to low/no contact. Now, my wife is about 8 months pregnant, and they randomly showed up at my house, even though I never gave them my address. They wanted to talk and meet my wife, but I didn't let them in and told them to turn around and go back to where they came from. But apparently, they decided they wanted to move to my city/state to be closer and repair the relationship between us. She said she missed her son and wanted to be a better mom and grandma. I called them delusional, told them to leave, and slammed the door. They then bought a house about 5 minutes away from us. This has all been way too much for me, and my therapist wants me to let them in, but I would rather cut all contact. It wouldn't be so bad if they just would stop trying to replace my mom and act like she never existed. I honestly don't know much about my dad's wife. I don't even know if I know who my dad is anymore. My wife is struggling to support me emotionally and doesn't know how to help. Please, internet strangers, how do I convince my dad and his wife that she is not and will never be my mom? Update 1. To answer some questions and to clarify, my wife, our unborn child, and I are doing well overall. My wife is over being pregnant at this point, and our child should be here in the coming weeks. I did find a new therapist. I called to cancel the rest of my appointments on the books, and he did not take that well, so I have put in a complaint. I met with my new one, and I like her a lot better. I feel like I'm actually being heard and getting the help I need. I want to make this clear, I am 24. My dad's wife is 38, 14 years older than me. My dad is 52, 14 years older than his wife. So when she entered my life, I was 14, and she was 28. There were also theories about how my dad might have had something to do with my mom's passing. That is not the case, but I still believe they were together before she passed. I am investing in a security system, but it will be a few weeks until they can install it. For now, we have a doorbell cam and some cheaper cameras. As for social media, since the post about her being excited about being a grandma, and my wife and I getting engaged, we have locked down all social media. My wife and I are not active on any platforms anymore, except for messaging or sharing pictures. And we found the leak as well. It was my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband. We had a family dinner where we had planned on working on the birthing plan. Brother-in-law was insistent on being there, which was odd as he was not a part of it to begin with. While we were waiting for my mother-in-law to get home, I shared what happened between my dad and how it made me and my wife feel, and brother-in-law got visibly uncomfortable. When I called him out on it, he denied it, but it was obvious. Sister-in-law called him out, and he broke down. He said he had been talking with them because we needed all the family support we could get, and that they deserved to know their grandbaby. This caused an argument, and it ended with sister-in-law moving out and staying with us. They have no kids and have had some issues. I think it is over for them, and I definitely will not be ever trusting him. Our birthing plan has been locked down now and made secure, but we have some just in case of crazy showing up plans. Everyone who needs to know the details knows. Now, it is surprisingly hard to get a protection order. Where I live, it is heavily dependent on violence or physical contact. Technically, what they have done is not against the law yet. They are perceived as no real danger at this time since there were no threats made, and they left when asked to. They have free will to move wherever they want. Also, since a family member gave another family member my address, it is fair game. In regards to grandparents' rights, it is only applicable when my wife and I have lost custody or are unable to care for them, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law will be taking on that role if needed. My wife and I are not currently in a position to move. We just bought our house when interest rates were low, and my in-laws helped with the down payment. It is nothing massive, but it is home and perfect for our starter family. My dad and his wife are unable to have kids. I don't know from which side it made it impossible, so that may be why the constant pressure. I did write my dad a letter summing up why I want no contact, how I feel about what they did, and emphasizing that his wife is not my mom and never will be. If I feel like giving them a chance, it is on me and my family's terms, specifying that my family is me, my wife, and any possible children moving forward. They are not to talk to my wife or me at any time unless it is through our lawyer. He can decide what information to pass on. They are not welcome around us at any point, including our house, school, daycare, social gatherings, birthdays, Christmas, BBQs, etc., as well as in public. We are strangers. Keep space and act like we don't exist. If they break this, they will get a follow-up letter, up to and including a protection order. The letter was quite long. Our lawyer looked it over, and my wife and I signed it. Then he signed it as well, and it was notarized. We made legal copies for all of our records. My lawyer went with a private delivery service and hand-delivered it to him with a signature of received goods, plus video evidence as well. So far, so good on that end. I'm now focused on my wife and soon-to-be child. I hope I'm ready. I know how not to be a father, so there is that. Is there anything else I should do or think of to protect my family? Update 2. In the weeks leading up to my wife giving birth, things were stressful. I ended up having my first panic attack, which was not fun. My wife helped me through that one. Brother-in-law tried to apologize and get back with my sister-in-law, but messed that up by trying to explain himself again on how he was in the right by reconnecting my parents and my family. After that, their divorce has been moving quickly. My wife giving birth was an amazing experience, for me. The moment I held my child for the first time amazed me. How can I love something so tiny, and whom I just met, so much so quickly? Both the baby and my wife are doing really well. My wife started saying she feels like a cow. I'm not sure how to make her stop, but she keeps randomly mooing at me. My dad and his wife tried to show up at the hospital. Still not sure how they found us or knew where we were, but staff blocked them and covered for us. As a bunch of you said, we would start running into them randomly around town, mainly in grocery and shopping stores. Even if I drove out of my way, we would sometimes bump into one or both of them. Law enforcement still says they are not doing anything against the law and don't seem dangerous or malicious. We did our best to ignore them, stay home, or have a family member get the items. My therapist has sure earned her paycheck in the last few months. My lawyer is trying their best, but the laws, I feel, are against us. Innocent until proven guilty, or in this case, nothing is dangerous until after it is, or hurry up and wait until something bad happens, then we might do something. It is super frustrating. We also moved. Now, I never want to do that again. Good family helps, but with a newborn and crazy people around, it was stressful. I know it doesn't sound possible, and I'm still in disbelief, but my in-laws are amazing and got us in contact with a friend of theirs. Long story short, these friends wanted to downsize since all of their kids moved out. They told my in-laws and brought them over, and we ended up coming up with a really good deal. Our new home is bigger, on more land, but needs a lot of work. It is old and outdated, but we have been making it ours. Since moving, we had not seen my dad or his wife. That was until about 2 weeks ago. I was going to update and write all of the above, but then my lawyer contacted me, saying my dad reached out and wanted to talk. I tried to say hard pass, but they advised me by saying, I think it would be in your best interest, so we set up a date and time in public. 3 days later, at a coffee shop, we met up. Even though we were early, they were waiting for us. It was just my wife and me, and also a paralegal from my lawyer's office undercover. I could see the disappointment in their eyes that our child did not come with us. It started awkwardly. They initiated some small talk, but I just said, what do you want? Well, my dad's health is not well and is going downhill steadily. He may have 2 years at most. They showed scans, doctor's notes, tests, and other items to prove it. I was quiet the entire time they talked, and all I could think about is, that sucks for him. It was like getting news that someone you knew of when you were a child passed away. For me, no real emotion or feelings because I feel like I didn't have a real connection with them. My wife knew I was irritated and tried to silently calm me down. When they were done, I said something to the effect of, I'm sorry this happened to you. I hope you get better, and got up to walk out. His wife opened her mouth and said something like, that's it? That's all you have to say? You owe it to him too. I didn't let her finish and went off on them. I said everything that I had been saying in my head for years. A practiced monologue I started when I was a teen. Highlights include but are not limited to, how he owed me more than anything, how he ruined any type of relationship the moment he started thinking with his lower half, when he tried to erase my real and only mom, neglect, abuse, over-punishment, the works. Then, I finished with my real mother, who passed away when I was 14. Pretend I did as well because that is when he, my dad, also checked out of my life. Now, looking back, I find it in a way funny that my 5'4" wife was holding back a 6'3", 200+ guy, but they kinda looked like fish opening and closing their mouths. My wife then escorted me away. When we got to the car, I had my second panic attack. I'm struggling, but working through it. When my wife notices me zoning, she just hands me our child, and things get better. Sorry for the long read if you are still here. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and may your life be blessed.